Hi, this is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business. Today I'm going to be evaluating GnuCash, an open source software for Chapter 3 of the Fit Small Business Accounting Software case study. And this chapter deals with accounts receivable. So our first task is to set up a sales tax. So we want a 6% sales tax payable to the state of New York. So let's search through our menu here. Okay, under business we have sales tax table. And so I think first we have to create a table and then an entry. So let's create the table as New York State. And then we want a 6% tax. And I want this to go to the account. Looks like I have no way to add an account at this stage, so I'm going to have to hit cancel. And let's go back over here to our accounts page. And we're going to have to enter a new account. Okay, and so this is going to be sales tax payable. And let's make it sure that it is a liability. Okay, and we want it to be a top level account. Okay, now let's go back to our sales tax table, create a new for New York State, and this is going to be a 6%. And when we collect the value, we're going to want to stick it in the sales tax payable account. So click OK, and there we go. Okay, so hit close. It's kind of a weird way to label it. Okay, so let's hit close. And okay, so there we go. We got our 6%. So now it asks us to customize an invoice template by uploading a logo and adjusting the color scheme to match the logo. Create a personalized message at the bottom of the invoice. I find very little invoice customization available, at least just to the user. If you're a developer or a coder, I'm sure that this being open source software, you could probably do it. But as a user, the only thing I've found is under edit, we can edit preferences. And if we go to business preferences, it looks like there are maybe 4 choices here for invoice templates, but I'm just going to keep it on printable invoice. So that's the only customization I've been able to find for invoices. I did just happen to see just now this style sheets. I wonder what this is. I'm not sure. Don't think that has to do with invoicing. Okay, so we can't really customize our invoices much at all. So we want to issue an invoice to Family Bowling for 40 hours of Hank Independence labor. So if in Chapter 2 we paid Hank $30 an hour for his 40 hours, now we're going to bill Family Bowling. Now we weren't able to assign that properly to the customer, so it's not like there's this unbilled expense sitting for us to bill to to Family Bowling. So we're just going to have to start fresh on this. So we're going to go to our customers overview. I like to call this kind of our customer center. We're going to create a new invoice, and we're going to create it to, that's our invoice ID. I guess we'll start it at 1,000. It's going to be to Family Bowling, net 30. Okay. Okay. So here we're going to describe it as contract labor. And the income account, we're just going to stick it in our sales account. And it was 40 hours at $80 an hour, and so that would be $3,200. We don't have to charge sales tax on the labor, so we are not going to do that. Good, and it looks like that is it for how we create the invoice. So that was fairly easy. So we can hit post. Would you like to save it? Yes. Do you really want to post it? Okay. Now, how do we print it? Okay, here we go. Print invoice. This will be the first chance we get to look at it. Okay, so now when we better fill out all the company information, we will have all of the company address here. We'll have the customer address over here. So, I mean, it's got your basic things, right? It's got your invoice date, your due date, and your terms, invoice number, a description. So, I mean, it does have the very necessity, the very, the most necessary things in the invoice. It does have a line for sales tax. I mean, it meets the minimum requirements, but it is not at all attractive. Okay, good. So let's close that invoice. And we could try those. There are a couple other invoice templates we could try, see if they look any better. Okay, so that's our invoice. Now let's just check our report real quick. Let's make sure that it's showing up on our balance sheet as an accounts receivable. Down here is accounts receivable, $3,200. Very good. Okay, so that looks good. Moving on. Okay, now we want to record an invoice for the sale of 20 plumbing widgets to Big Time Diner for $25 each. Be sure to collect the 6% sales tax on the entire sale. So, we're going to create another invoice, this time to Big Time Diner. So let's create our customer first. And then let's create a new invoice. Okay, I'm going to leave the invoice number blank. Let's see if it automatically adds one to the last invoice. So this should be invoice 1001. So Big Time Diner is already filled in because I had highlighted Big Time Diner before I hit new invoice. Okay, so let's hit OK. No, it just started over at 1. Okay, so our description is going to be plumbing widgets. Okay, the income account is going to be sales. Quantity is going to be, I think, 20. Okay, the unit price is we sell them for $25 each. Okay, so that's a $500 sale. Now we have to collect tax. Okay, now we have to choose a tax table, I would think. We better expand these and see what they say. Tax included? No. Oh, here's the problem. Huh. Well, it's wasting a whole bunch of space there. Okay, well that's annoying. So our tax table, this would be the New York State. Okay, and then okay, so that all looks correct. So can we print the invoice before we post it? Make sure we like what it looks like. Well, that's not right at all. Let's close that. So I think we need to post it first. So it does look okay. It looks $500 plus $30 in tax. So let's go ahead and post it. Okay, now let's print it, see what it looks like. Yeah, good. So it shows our tax there of $30. Very nice. Now let's look at our financial reports, make sure it recorded it the way we would expect. So I would expect a $500 accounts receivable. Where's our balance sheet? Here we go. So a $500 accounts receivable. Good. So that looks correct. Actually, a $530 accounts receivable because they owe us the $30 in sales tax. And then we have a liability of $30 in sales tax that we owe to the state of New York. So very good. Looks like it recorded that correctly. And let's just make sure it recorded the revenue correctly. So let's go to reports. Where's our income statement? Okay, sales of $3,700. That's $500 widget, $3,200 for Hank's labor, and then the expenses. Looks good. Now notice the thing missing here is there was no the cost of the widgets that we sold, right? We bought them for $10 a piece and now we sold 20 of them. We should have a cost of goods sold here, but this program doesn't account for inventory. And so it doesn't automatically transfer from our inventory account the cost of the assets that we sold. So let's look again at the balance sheet. Okay, and here we have inventory of $1,590. This is what we paid for it. So a good software with inventory accounting will automatically transfer the cost of what you sold from this asset account, which is this inventory account, to the cost of goods sold account on your income statements. Because this program doesn't do it, you're going to have to track that cost in a separate program, perhaps even a spreadsheet, and then come in here and make a journal entry to debit cost of goods sold and credit your inventory. So you don't want to do that if you have much inventory accounting at all. You'd be much better off with Zoho Books or Xero or QuickBooks. Those are all really good software that have good inventory accounting. Okay, so that looks good for that. I think everything's working fine. Let's move on. Can we create recurring invoices? So we're going to create a new customer here, Trampoline City. Okay, new customer, Trampoline City. And we're going to have a service contract with them. So we charge them $100 a month for a service contract. So let's let's try doing it with a new invoice first. Okay, invoice, Trampoline City. I think that's fine. Okay, and now we come here. Description would be our service contract. And income account, we're just going to use our general sales account. You can make different sales accounts if you want to for different things. This is just going to be 1 month of our $100 service contract, no tax on that, so that is $100. Okay, so now if we want to make it a recurring invoice, we'd have to make it a scheduled transaction. So I don't see that here, so I'm going to go ahead and post it. Now we learned a bit about scheduled transactions in chapter 2, so I think I know how I can do this easily. Would you like to save it? Yes. Do you really want to post it? Yes. Okay, so let's close the invoice here. Now let's go to our general journal. I think that's under tools. Let's go to our general journal, find that transaction. Here it is, Trampoline City's invoice transaction, right? Debit accounts receivable, credit sales. Ignore funds in, funds out, that makes no sense. It's a debit and credit. Okay, so let's highlight this transaction for Trampoline, and then let's go up here and let's hit schedule. Okay, and now here we can schedule the frequency as monthly. We've already recorded today, so the next one will be next month, and it's never going to end. Or actually, we could say this is a 1-year contract, so it's already happened once. It needs to happen 11 more times. And hit OK. And there we go. We have our scheduled transaction. If we go over here to where was our here's our scheduled transactions, scheduled transaction editor. Yeah, here we have our Trampoline City scheduled transaction. Okay, very good. So next, so we receive a check from Family Bowling in the full amount of the invoice. Record the receipt of the check, but don't deposit it into a bank account yet. So this does not have any sort of feature like an undeposited funds account. So one problem you're going to have when you go to reconcile your checking account is that the software is going to record every single check as a separate deposit into your check register, whereas in real life you group a bunch of checks together and make one deposit. Well, that all those checks show up as a single deposit on your bank statement, whereas they show as individual deposits on your check register. So without real good accounting and good tracking, sometimes it can be hard to match your register to your bank statement. But we can't do anything about that in this program, so let's just go ahead and record the check. Okay, so we're going to receive a check from Family Bowling for the full amount. Let's go to our Customer Center. Let's highlight Family Bowling. Now let's search for invoices. I think we figured out in the last chapter a little easier way to do that. So we go Business, Customers, Find Invoice. Now can we just search for any invoice that is not paid? So we'll say is paid, and then if we uncheck it, that means it has not been paid. And let's search for that. And that comes up with all of our unpaid invoices. Okay, so last chapter we were playing around with Family Bowling and trying to figure out exactly how it all works here. So that's why we have a lot of blank invoices there. So we want to receive payment on this invoice, and so we're going to highlight it and hit Process Payment. So from Family Bowling, it's this particular invoice we're receiving payment on. Okay. And so it's $3,200. We're going to deposit it into our checking account. Okay, and hit OK. And there we go. Now, real quick, let's check our reports. So now we should our accounts receivable should be $3,200 less. Yes, and it is. Very good. Okay. So generally when a customer pays us, we can always give them a copy of their invoice as their receipt. But what if somebody comes in and pays in cash? They show up on site, pay for something in cash. Can we issue them a cash receipt? So if you have a lot of sales in person, then you need probably some sort of point of sale system. Otherwise, we need to, if it's just a few, a month or something, we can issue checks, we can issue receipts through this program if it has the option, and I'm not sure that it does. So we could do, I don't want to do an invoice. We already know how to do invoices. But I don't think it's got any other choice. There's no like received cash choice. So I think the only way we can do this is to go into our journal and just record it directly in our journal, but it's not going to provide us a way to issue a receipt. But we can at least record the transaction. So we're going to record it. So this is a walk-in customer. So I'm just going to create a customer called walk-in customer, and we can use this customer for all of our walk-ins. Okay. So I guess that didn't create a customer. That's just kind of my description of the transaction. So our accounts are going to be, we're going to debit. See, what did the walk-in customer do? Bought one plumbing widget for $25. So we're going to debit cash on hand for $25. We are going to then credit sales for $25. Okay, so that records the transaction. But the problem is it doesn't give them a receipt. Is there anywhere up here we can print a receipt or anything? No. So we can record transactions like that if they're just cash without going through the invoice. However, if they want a receipt, then we're going to have to run it through the invoice system. So create an invoice, then receive the payment, then you can print out the invoice as the receipt. Okay. Now, we receive a check from Big Time Diner for $200 towards their invoice. Okay, so the key here is we want to see, can we accept a partial payment from a customer? I know we can pay partial payments. Let's see if we can accept partial payments. So I'm just going to highlight Big Time Diner. So there seems to be multiple ways to do everything here. So let's just highlight Big Time Diner in our customer center here. And let's go to process payment. Very good. So that holds up Big Time Diner and all of their payments outstanding. We're going to collect on this invoice, but we're only going to collect $300. Okay, and we're going to deposit that into our checking account. So hit OK, and there we go. We've collected $300. So we were able to, or $200. We were able to collect the partial payment. Later that day, they come in and pay the rest of it. So again, we just wanted to see if we could do a partial payment. Now let's go ahead and collect the rest of it. So I guess we received $300 before. Now we're going to receive the remaining $230 deposited into our checking account. Okay, there we go. Good. Can we view outstanding invoices? So I think the way to view outstanding invoices is going to be to go to our Find Invoices, and then select is paid, uncheck it so that it's not paid, and hit find, and there's all of our open invoices. I think the only one that really matters is that counts is this Trampoline City. It's the only one that's been posted. All these others were just drafts that we abandoned. Okay. On February 5th, Big Time Diner returns 2 plumbing widgets. Accept those widgets back into inventory. Well, we can't account for our inventory, so that's not going to work. But we want to issue them a credit memo. So let's see if we can issue Big Time Diner a credit memo for 2 of the widgets they bought. So I think we probably do the memos in the same place we do the invoicing. So it's Big Time Diner again. Let's create an invoice, except instead of an invoice, we're going to do a credit note. And so it's to Big Time Diner. That looks fine. Let's hit OK. Okay. So we have credit note. So let's put here return plumbing widgets. Okay, so we're going to take that out of our sales account. Okay, and they returned 2 for $25. Okay, and we do need them when we need to make the sales tax adjustment as well. Okay, there. That gives us our sales tax adjustment of $3, 6% of $50. So let's go ahead and post this. Save it and then post it. Now I'm curious what our credit note looks like. So up here it labels it a credit note. Other than that, it looks pretty much like a invoice, except now we do see that we made the $3 adjustment to our sales tax, which is great. Oh no, I clicked the wrong button. That closes the whole company. So let's cancel. We don't want to do that. Okay, so let's just close that window. Okay. So now, can we view the credit balance in their accounts receivable account? So let's just keep Big Time Diner highlighted here. And if we click, what if we click customer listing? Okay, so that lists, this is giving us our accounts receivable aging report actually. Okay. So I think the best way to see any outstanding credit memos is to highlight it and then click process payment. And here we can see that there's a credit note of $53. Okay. Um, Good. So now we want to refund that credit balance in their accounts receivable account by issuing them a check. So I know we could apply it towards future invoices just by not doing anything with it, by just leaving it sit there. But let's see if we can actually refund this. So process payment, click this, and now, very cool, it gives us refund of $53. That's going to come from our checking account. And let's print a check for that. That's really cool. A lot of software, it really struggles with this credit note to the customer that you then want to refund. So this software actually works this very well. You have a $53 credit note. If there's an invoice you want to apply it for, just create the invoice. When you receive payment from the invoice, you can apply the credit to it. Here we don't have an invoice outstanding, so we can simply refund the $53 by printing a check. So let's hit OK. Should bring up a print check menu. It does, and so there we go. I'm going to cancel it. Okay. Wow, that really handled the refund really nicely. Okay, and then the last thing we need to do is work with our sales tax. We need to write a check for our sales tax. Now let's see how we can do this. This might be challenging because so far the only way I know how to process a payment is through... Okay, first let's look at our sales tax, see if that makes sense. Let's see if we have a report that'll actually give us some sales tax information. Okay, I'm not... Okay. That's not what we want. That deals with income tax, it looks like. Okay, so I think we're just going to have to go off of our... Sometimes you can get a lot more detailed report, but we'll just go off of our balance sheet. So our sales tax payable is $27, and let's click into that and see if that makes sense. Okay, we collected $30 on the sale, and then we gave a credit of $3 when they returned a couple. So we owe $27. How are we going to issue a check for $27? Okay. I don't see any sort of process payment here or anything. So I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set up New York State as a vendor. So let's go to our vendor center. So businesses, vendor. They call it the vendor's overview. And let's create a new vendor called State of New York. Okay. Now, while we highlight State of New York, let's hit Process Payment. We want to post this to... Yeah, we can't select sales tax payable there. Okay, so I think we're going to have to enter our sales tax payment as a bill first. So let's do a new bill to the State of New York. Okay, and now here, let's put pay sales tax liability. Our expense account needs to be our sales tax payable rather than an actual expense account. So sales tax payable, and I believe it was $27. Okay, $27. Now we can post it. Actually, I think it usually wants you to save it first, I suppose. So save it, post it, okay. And now we can hit this process payment button. Now it gives us State of New York. So what we did with our bill is transferred it from our sales tax payable account, which we indicated right here, to an accounts payable account for State of New York. Now we're paying that accounts payable account for $27, and we can print a check to do it. And it comes out of our checking account. Okay. There we go. And now this pops up where we can print a check, but I don't want to waste my paper doing that. And so there we go. We paid our sales tax liability. Let's look real quick at our balance sheet. See, it doesn't look like it's updated. I wish there was a way we could just quickly refresh this page. Oh, here we go. Reload. That was a right click, and then I can reload. Oh, that doesn't look like it reloaded anything. Okay, let's do reports, balance sheet. Okay, now our sales tax liability, our sales tax payable is gone. Okay, so some accounting software will actually have features that will actually make it much easier to pay your sales tax liability. You just view it and say pay it, and it'll write a check for you. Sometimes it'll even pay it electronically, and there are QuickBooks Online, I believe, will actually even file the return for you. Here it's a little bit more work. You got to set up the taxing jurisdiction as a vendor, transfer your sales tax payable over into your accounts payable for that vendor, and then you can make a payment like you would to any other vendor. Okay, so let's go ahead and score GnuCash in our scorecard here. So create a sales tax item. We were able to create that 6% sales tax. Choose an invoice template. I'm going to give it a half a point because it only got 4 different templates to choose from. Upload logo for the invoice. I didn't see that. We couldn't change the colors, couldn't create a personalized message. Okay, we're able to create a new customer. Add unbilled labor and expenses to the invoice. No. Now we did just manually go in and add the labor to the invoice, but there was no way when we paid the labor to save it and then add it to an invoice later. So we weren't able to do that. We could print the invoice. I saw no way to email the invoice from within the program. Add inventory to the invoice. We were able to do that kind of manually, but there was no like inventory tracking feature. We were able to charge sales tax on it. The program did not calculate our cost of goods sold. We were able to create a recurring invoice. So we were able to receive the check on the outstanding invoice. We weren't able to issue a sales receipt for that walk-in customer that came in. We were able to record the entry in the journal, but we weren't able to actually issue a receipt. We can receive short payments from customers. We can view outstanding balance invoices. We can review outstanding invoices without generating a report. Remember, you just got to highlight the customer and then hit process payment, and it'll show all the invoices that are outstanding. The credit memo feature worked really well. It included the sales tax adjustment. Now, it did not make any sort of inventory adjustments because, again, it doesn't track inventory. We were able to issue a check to refund that credit, which is very nice. That's something a lot of software really struggles with. View transactions summarized by customer. Were we able to do that? Let's see. Transactions by customer. I think we had to get a report to do that. Yeah, that customer listing doesn't do it. Yeah, that's just more like a accounts receivable aging report. If we go to reports, we want by customer. Income and expense. I'm not seeing anything about customer report. No customer selected. And if we go can we just select them all? No, we can't select them all. So we can select individual customers to view. So let's see what it looks like here. So one of our customers was Big Time Diner. So let's just select it and see what this report looks like. Yeah, so this is transactions by customer. I'll give it a half a point. I don't like to have to print reports for it, and theirs are really painful because you got to go in and select exactly which customer. I'd rather just to see all of the customers at once if that's what I want. View sales tax liability detail. I'll give it half a point so you can see the debits and credits to the payable account, but that's not really the same as if it has a sales tax tracking function. That can be a lot more detailed. Pay the sales tax liability with a check. Again, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a half a point because there is kind of a workaround to where you can do it, which is what we did by creating a vendor, but there's no feature that allows you to do it quickly. It does not give us an option to pay it electronically through the program, and it does not file our sales tax return. Okay, so for subjective ease of use, there is a significant learning curve with this program. If you watched the last chapter, you'll see that this chapter went much smoother because I'm starting to learn the program a little bit. So there is a steep learning curve, but this is still really complicated software. So I am still going to give it a subjective ease of use of 0.1, which is the lowest rating I can give. It is just not easy to use. However, if you're dedicated and you continue to use it, it will get easier. But the fact that you have to do all these clicks to go to all these different areas because it doesn't present all the necessary information in one place, that's never going to change. You might get quick at clicking around and getting exactly where you need to be to see something, but other software, including some free software, actually has all the information you need right in the same place. So when you go to the customer center, it's got all your customers. You click on a customer, it gives you all the information you could possibly want about that customer. It's got the total sales for the customer, all the transactions listed for that customer, all of its outstanding invoices. So again, so this program is usable and you'll get faster and faster with it, but it is terribly inconvenient how much you have to click around to try to find the information you're looking for. Okay, my name is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business, and this was our case study chapter 3 review of GnuCash.